Okay, so the difference between tools and techniques when talking about fighting, self-defense, combatives, is that a technique is a sequenced, memorized movement. Let's say, I mean, most martial arts schools do this where they'll have the attacker and the defender. The defender knows what attack the attacker is going to throw. So let's say it's going to be a right punch. So then the defender does the response, whether it be, a Pak-Sal punch or, parry it, double parry it twice this way, punch here, trap the arm and punch this. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go behind him and grab him by the back of the collar and then kick his legs out from underneath him and drag him down to the ground. And all these variables when it comes to what kind of attack it can be, because you don't know what attack your opponent is going to throw unless you're psychic. So to have a memorized response for each and every attack is somewhat ludicrous. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, some guy can have you by the shirt, pinned up to a wall, and he's threatening you with his finger pointing at you, and he's maybe about to go off on you and start just pummeling you with his other hand, which is most likely what would happen anyway. I mean, if someone grabs you, it's going to be followed by a punch or a tap or whatever. I'm just going to sit there and grab you and wait for you to do the technique. So what's going to happen is, let's say some guy has you to a wall and he's threatening you with his finger. Now let's say he has you to the wall with the same arm, but then he has a knife at your throat. And now let's say he has you at the wall, pinned with a knife at your throat, and then one of his buddies is to his left, and his buddy is standing there, and one of his hands is in his pocket, and he might have a weapon, you're not sure. Now let's change it to his buddy's, at his right-hand side. So there's too many variables to have a technique. Okay, when his buddy's to his right, you do this. If his buddy's to his left, you do this. If he has a knife at your throat, you do this. If he doesn't have a knife at your throat, you do this. It's not going to happen like that. You can't have a technique for every situation because there's, and there's an unlimited amount of variables that can be presented to you. So what you need is tools and analytical skills to help you get out of, any self-defense situations. They should work in any self-defense situation, in any scenario, rather than be specific for specific attacks or whatnot. So a tool that you're going to use in self-defense situations might be, a tool could be a hammer fist, it could be a palm strike, it could be a knee, a headbutt, an eye gouge. It can be used in any self-defense situation. You don't need to memorize movement for it. Like, if someone grabs you by the shirt with one hand, I mean, all this twisty-turny stuff, I mean, it's not going to work for you because it's not really a physical attack. What's going to be coupled with that lapel grab is a whole bunch of rage and anger directed towards you. I mean, that's what you got to deal with. It's not, I mean, anybody can hit someone in the face, but not everyone can deal with that rage coming at you, that ferocity. So I've trained with a lot of martial artists as training partners, and I found that during the attacks that I throw, when I play the role of the attacker, none of the techniques kind of work, okay? Because they're too focused on predetermined attacks and predetermined responses. So what you have to do is you have to couple your instinctive flinch response that you have as a human being and create it into a defensive response, okay? So you're kind of combining a natural reaction that you have to an attack with a gross motor skill of covering your head or flinching and jamming a punch or whatever. Because whenever you see, let's take a car accident, where do you see the trauma on a car accident victim who goes to the windshield? A lot of times you see it on the hands, okay? That's because when someone's coming at you, they put their hands up to defend themselves. I mean, how many times when you've tripped and you've fallen on the ground, you put your hands up to stop yourself, okay? Because this is a natural reaction to help defend yourself, so why not turn that into a gross motor movement, which will be enhanced during adrenaline, during the adrenaline dump, to help you defend against an attack. And this flinch response coupled with this, this defensive response will help you no matter what attack is thrown. It'll provide you with enough cover and enough time to not get knocked out and not get knocked down. Then you can get inside the line of attack and finish off your attacker with whatever tools you want, whether it be you know, like I said before, hammer fist, palm strike, whatever, an elbow, work your clinch skills, you know. And a lot of times also when, let's take grappling, okay? And if I had to pick a martial art that was my favorite, grappling would win hands down. I love grappling. But let's take it for a second and look at it for self-defense. A lot of grapplers are tough guys. Grappling is a tough sport. I really like it. But in self-defense, as soon as you make contact with the person, you should be hurting them. And if you take grappling, you go, okay, you take the guy down, he's still not hurt, and then you have to position yourself in order to submit him. While you're positioning yourself, he's still not hurt. And then you put the submission on, and depending whether the guy's high on, you know, drugs or just like a strong as an ox, or he's really flexible or whatever, or he's really well trained, you're still not going to get, you know, it's going to take you a while to get that submission, and he's still not hurt, okay? And even if you're trained to submit the guy, you're not trained to actually rip the arm out of his socket or arm bar and break his arm, or, you know, have an ankle lock and snap his ankle. You don't train to do that in class, so you might hesitate when you do it. I'm not saying you won't do it, but you know, you fight the way you train. So if you're used to waiting for that tap out and not going the full, you know, not going all the way, because obviously you don't want to hurt your training partner all the time. So as soon as you make contact with your adversary, you have to be hurting him. You have to cause pain with all the tools at your disposal, okay? All of your strikes, you know, grabbing him by the hair and just whipping him on the ground. It doesn't really have to look like a move, you know? It doesn't have to look like a martial arts move. Is it easier to deal with some guy coming, you know, and he's jab, cross, hook, you know, all this stuff, maybe trying to grab you and clinch you? Or is it, you know, is it easier to deal with that? Or is it easier to deal with some guys going, just like ripping at you and just going nuts on you, you know, like, whoa, like this guy's, you know, it's like you could attack an animal, okay? And you don't want any part of this. The guy's not going to want any part of that. So you have to, like I said, you have to hurt the guy as soon as you make contact with him. You know, if you're trying to pull off this technique, like let's say take the lapel grab again, and you're trying to pull it and trying to twist on him, and he's just too strong for you. He's just this huge, strong guy, and you can't get that arm off your shirt, and you're just twisting it. Well, I mean, you can do that maybe twice at the most, and he's just going to start just, you know, grabbing you, just piston pumping you right in the face, and you're not going to have a face left, okay? And another reason is, when some guy goes to grab your shirt, if you have the proper fence up, okay, passive stance, whatever you like to call it, okay, you're talking to the guy, there's no way you should be able to grab your shirt, first of all, okay? If he goes to grab your shirt, then boom, you nail him, okay? And if he does grab your shirt, then you just nail him. You just beat the shit out of the guy. You don't worry about what technique you're going to do. You just beat the crap out of him. You cause pain, okay? Don't worry about what technique you use, what physical technique, okay? Never use the memorized movement technique, because most of the time, they're fine motor skill, and there's fine motor skills and gross motor skills. Fine motor skills are negated when the adrenaline dump happens, and gross motor skills are enhanced when you're on the adrenaline dump, okay? So if you train your gross motor skills all the time, when you actually have an adrenaline dump, okay, all of your skills are all of a sudden going to be enhanced. Whereas if you always train fine motor skills, you know, fine movements, manipulating, you know, the wrist or whatever, that twisty-turny stuff, or I've seen stuff where guys will attack with the knife and there's, you know, an X block, and you just cause pain to them. You don't care about